Guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is November 22nd, 2020. We have an excellent show for you today. We're also pet sitting for some dogs, obviously. Holly is still here, but that's okay. She's a good girl. So Boris Johnson and Prince Charles have kind of gone all in on the Great Reset. We're going to talk about that. We are going to talk about some election stuff here in the U.S. We can't not talk about that. Sidney Powell has said that whatever is coming out this week is going to be biblical. Biblical. And I love that term. And you know what that means to a Christian? That means like Sodom and Gomorrah, fire burning of cities. Okay, that's how God does biblical.
Yeah, so I got to start out here because I've been fit to be tied. You know, it seems like every time there's like a great movement, push in one direction, then there's a push in another direction. What we are fighting here, you're going to watch. I want you to watch my whole program. I want you to share this program with your friends and your family who are wondering, what dystopian world have I entered into? Well, right. You have been programmed to be in this world since you were a kid in public school. We've been trying to talk to you guys about it, and not enough Christians got their kids out of public school, so here we are, okay? And now you're waking up. It's a little bit too late. It's a little bit like you've been on a trip to Mars and you've been sleeping, and the rest of us been trying to wake y'all up on the trip to Mars, and then you wake up and you're like, we're at Mars. How did we get here? We're like, we have been trying to tell you. They have put us on ships and have been taking us to Mars, and now we are here, and now you're like, oh, now I gotta fight these bad guys who took me to Mars. Yeah, we gotta get back to Earth, baby. Okay, we got the program, we got the space shuttle, we're going back to 1776. We're going back to getting our country right. We're gonna change the world, okay? But we are at a pivotal moment where we're talking about the Great Reset. We're gonna talk about 2030. We're gonna talk about Build Back Better. Do you recognize right now that the global elites are all on board with this Build Back Better? That is Joe Biden's campaign slogan. That is Boris Johnson's campaign slogan. That is the European Union's campaign slogan. That is Justin Trudeau's campaign slogan. And if you don't recognize what side you need to be on, I cannot help you. But this program will help you. For people who may be on the fence, who don't know what to do, I will give you tools on what to do. But the first thing you got to do is, we're at Mars, baby. Y'all got to wake up. Y'all got to wake up. You've been calling Alex Jones a conspiracy theorist. UN. You know, the FEMA camps and things like that. Do you recognize that there are leftists on the internet, that there are journalists, qualified journalists on mainstream media saying that after this election, if Joe Biden is president, they're going to have to reprogram us like after World War II, because Republicanism under Donald Trump is such a threat to the world, and it is a threat to the new world order. We have played clip after clip after clip of the Bushes and the Cheneys and all these people talking about a new world order, a new reset. The World Economic Forum comes out and says your world's going to be better out 2030, and you won't own anything. But I have good news for you right now. There are some people. I've got some great journalists, the Rebel News in Canada. I got great journalists on Sky News with the Outsiders and Rita in Australia. We have people who are woken up. Hungary is not putting up with this stuff. Poland is not putting up with this stuff. And we here in America, do you realize that the lines are drawn, and you now get to pick a side? Whereas before, I could give you, maybe you didn't know, maybe you couldn't see. But after this, if people don't see, that's their own deal. But I got good news for you. Because the spirit of 1776 is the spirit of power of God, and He is not going to let this country go under. And we just celebrated the 400-year anniversary of the Pilgrims, who left everything, and came to this country with a 500-year plan, okay, for a country that would be built on religious liberty. And then God blew their little boat away from the Virginia colony, the 1619 Project, okay? And they landed on their own shores, where they created their own self-government. It was called the Mayflower Compact. I've got it here up on my wall right here. And we underwritten the subjects of our dread sovereign King Lord James, by the grace of God in Great Britain, having undertaken for the glory of God and the advancement of the Christian faith and the honor of the king and country. And they set down the very first self-government, and they picked a leader. He died. And then they had to pick another one, and it was William Bradford. He served for many years, a long time, like 40 years, as governor, because he just kept doing a good job, but they voted him in. They tried communism. Okay? They tried to, every person was given an allotment of what they all did together, and it didn't work. Socialism didn't work. The allotment of every man according to his ability, according to his need, didn't work, baby. But I'm going to tell you what did work. You get your plot of land, you get to keep it, you get to sell what you, when the British boats come and you trade, you get to sell. And guess what happened? The colony flourished. That's what called free market capitalism without the crony capitalism. Okay? And then you know what happened? Because their hearts were right and their hearts were good and they sought God, then they began to share. That is the basis of good government, to where you work hard, you keep what you have, and you go to God and you share. And you don't keep more than you need, especially when your neighbor, when you have 2 coats and your neighbor doesn't have 1 coat, then you give your neighbor a coat. The government doesn't come and take them from you and then disperse it. That's called communism. That's called socialism, and it doesn't work. But the only way a free government works is with the religious and moral people who do not take advantage of other people. And we have crony capitalists, big tech, big pharma. These people have monopolies around the world. And you know what? They don't get to operate in this free market capitalism because they aren't led by the power and the Spirit of God. So they need to be trust busted. They need to have their monopolies busted, okay?
Did you just make that up?
No, that's a word.
Trust busted?
No, that's a thing.
I've never heard of that.
No, that's a thing.
I know what it means. I get it, but I've just never. It sounds really catchy.
When big corporations
broke
it up. Standard Oil was broken up. They had a monopoly. Oh, and by the way, Standard Oil helped fund the Nazis, but that's a whole nother ballgame. So I'm going to piece together a show for you to show you what they plan on doing, what they are implementing on doing. And the only man standing in the way...
I don't think you meant that way. Implementing. They're just implementing, not implementing.
What they plan...
What they're planning on doing and implement. What they are attempting to implement.
Exactly. Thank you. Michelle fixes my words because the words are in my head and I don't have a mouth that works fast enough.
Right.
Okay. What they plan to do and what they are already implementing. Okay. Number one. With the coronavirus, it's real. People are getting it. But it's not as big of a deal as they are making it out to be. Making people wear masks is beyond stupid. And I know that if Donald Trump is not elected, my sentence was, there's one man standing in the way. His name is Donald J. Trump. But it's more than one man. 74 million people voted for Donald Trump. Okay? And then there's millions of people around the world. And in every great movie, okay, Hunger Games especially, the elite have everything. They have the FBI, they have the CIA, they have the DOJ. They have all the systems.
Yeah.
But they don't have the people. And the systems only operate by the consent of the governed and the consent of the people. And so we have to learn from Nazi Germany and the Jews. There were more Jews than there were Nazis.
How many times have we said that?
If they had organized and risen up and fought, you know, I read a wonderful, enlightening book about the Holocaust, where a young man who had been in 3 different concentration camps, when it was their turn to go into the crematorium, and I don't mean to say anything harshly against the Holocaust victims.
Right.
But they didn't say, well, there's about 100 of us, and there's about 4 or 5 guards.
If we rushed them,
we're gonna die. We're gonna die. But you know what? We're gonna take these guys with us.
And I think though,
and if that had happened, and you organized, and you begin, and you've got, and here's the thing. When you're in the midst of such evil, satanic evil, you go crazy. You can't think of anything hopeful. You can't think of a way out. Now, there are great stories, though, where people did get out, where people did fight back.
Yes,
but what they didn't have was the ability, if they had, like, let's say the internet. If the Jews had the internet,
yeah,
do you believe that they would have, that millions of them would have died. They would have been able to coordinate. Okay, this is a battle that's not going to be fought with flesh and blood. Okay, this is thank God, but you got to engage. This is a cyber battle,
right? Where
people are being killed. Alex Jones has been killed on the cyber, but he's still alive. That's the cool thing about cyber, right? Laura Loomer, Gavin McGinnis. They keep trying to kill Candace Owens. Great thing, you get like 9 lives here in cyber world, right? And there are people who capitulate and go along with the system, sometimes turning in their fellow conservatives, turning their back, not saying a word. Oh, and it's okay now that Joe Rogan had on Alex Jones, so Tim Pool can have on Alex Jones. But Tim Pool and Candace Owens and all these people became famous on Alex Jones' show. But then, because Alex Jones wasn't allowed to be talked about anymore, he was that kooky conspiracist guy, everybody backed away because they didn't want to go down the ship with Alex Jones. How wrong is that? We never did that. We don't capitulate like that. Okay? And you know who's helping save this country? You know who is standing up? I mean, Rand Paul was on Alex Jones. Ron Paul was on Alex Jones. Nigel went on Alex Jones. Tony Schaefer went on Alex Jones. Everyone who was everyone in the conservative world went on Alex Jones just like they would Glenn Beck. Okay? And Glenn Beck, Alex Jones isn't any crazier than Glenn Beck. Okay? But Glenn Beck, he capitulates more, but he's not.
I want to hit on something really quickly because it's important when it comes to the Holocaust victims and you talk about them standing in line to be cremated and they just went along with it. All right. You don't know what it's like until you're in that situation.
Absolutely.
But they had their minds broken down.
Right.
And it started out as something small.
Small.
Wear this mask.
Wear this mask.
Wear this star.
Wear this star.
Okay? So that's why it's so important that we do not succumb now in these seemingly harmless stages. What is it? Just wear the mask. I hate that. Just wear the mask. Well, guess what? Just wear the star. You're Jewish, just wear the star.
Yeah.
That leads to, I'm going to be in a line, my brain is going to be so broken, and I will walk into the gas chambers. So no, I'm not going to just wear the mask. You have to give sympathy to those victims because they had been so broken down, and that's why we aren't allowing that to happen.
I would say
now.
95% of every person would have just done the same thing.
Yes.
When you're broken down and you're broken down and you're broken down and you don't have food and you can't, you're literally starving to death. Your brain doesn't even work anymore. Here's the thing: who thought it was okay in Germany that Jews would only get 400 to 800 calories a day?
And that's
Germans
why,
knew that.
That's why they kept them hungry and starving, and a lot of times they were naked and cold because it breaks down the mind.
Right. And it breaks down the people's mind to say that it's okay to force people to wear a mask. It's okay to, make sure that you don't feed a Jew. Only give them 400 to 800 calories a day. Come on now. Now, here's another
big show here. Here we go.
No, but this leads up to this.
I'm with you.
Freedom Pass. Boris Johnson wants to introduce COVID passports so that you can operate. You could go see your mom and dad. You could go to a nursing home. If you test yourself for COVID every day, almost, you have to have 2 negative COVID tests, and then you would be given a certificate. You would be given an app on your phone so that you wouldn't have to wear a mask. You could go into nursing homes. You could operate in daily life. And then if someone came up to you and said, "What are you doing without a mask?" you would bring up your phone or your I'm not wearing a star. I'm not a Jew. I'm not one of, you have people, you have doctors who are saying anybody who denies COVID should be denied medical treatment. What if we deny that we landed on the moon? Should we be denied brain surgery because our brains aren't worth saving? There's a lot of people who believe the earth is flat. Should they not be able to get in an airplane and fly around the globe? The British government will reportedly introduce freedom passes and specialized passport certificates. This is beyond okay. This is beyond scary. Okay, freedom passes. Who have tested negative for the Chinese coronavirus, as Prime Minister Boris Johnson is set to announce further regional lockdown restrictions following the end of the latest national lockdown. Guess what they want to do? The government wants to give you 3 or 4 days for Christmas, but But, that is only in exchange for being locked down the entire month of January after that. You understand, I need you to get something, because Boris Johnson is a globalist who has, at first, he knew to just let the thing go through and go through the system, just like Sweden. Now, here's the thing. Leah and Michelle.
Let me have this.
We came back, we came to you with coronavirus, talking about it, telling you it was real, okay, when nobody else would. And then all of a sudden, things switched. And we began to see that what they were doing here with, maybe she needs to go to the bathroom.
She might need to.
Okay.
It's a spray bottle. It's just water. It's her owner's use. They do that at home when she gets crazy.
All right. The British Prime Minister will outline his plans for further localized lockdown restrictions on Monday, as well as a plan to introduce mass testing in what the government is describing as a roadmap to some sort of normality next year. Okay, we're all waiting. We would have normal life if Donald Trump were not contesting this election. We were headed on the way out of coronavirus. The reason for the lockdowns, the reason for the masks is all about this election. I have to tell you, because it has worldwide implications. That is why we are not going to let go. That's why we can't let go. That's why we're relying on the power of God, because we realize that they are bigger than us, but they're not bigger than God. The new normal that the British government is set to outline will reportedly include freedom passes for those who have 2 negative coronavirus tests per week. The government is also working with passport manufacturers to create coronavirus certificates for those that can prove they are free of the virus. The immunity certificate would be stored on people's phones after they receive a letter, card, or document from the government on testing negative for the virus. Remember, guys, as I'm going through this, please subscribe to our Resistance Chicks channel, and please subscribe. Go to our resistancechicks.com, sign up for our newsletter. Find us on PARLER. We are both Masfaith3 and Resistance Chicks on PARLER. We are on BitChute. We are on Rumble. Because I'm telling you guys something. Things are going to get crazy in January. And there might be a moment where you can't find us. And you will need to find us, because I will have information for you. I will always have information for you. Okay? The immunity certificate would be stored on people's phones after they receive a letter, card, or document from the government on testing negative for the virus. It is thought that the pass will permit Britons to see members of their families. You can see your family now, thanks to the British government. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Which is largely banned at the moment, as well as being able to travel without a mask. Because, oh, if you have 2 negative tests in 1 week, you couldn't get it like the next day, or the next day, or the next day. The source told the paper that the certificates would allow someone to wander down the streets free. And if someone else asks why they're not wearing a mask, they can show the card, letter, or app. I see a great underground network for this. I see a criminal racket ready for fake apps and fake certificates. I would not be ashamed to get one myself. Adding that it would permit a person to see their family, and normal social distancing rules will not apply. It is not clear at the time of this reporting whether the government will be handing out the freedom passes to those who have been vaccinated, but that is on the docket. The idea of so-called immunity passports was first floated by the British government in April, with Health Secretary Matt Hancock saying at the time, "We are looking at an immunity certificate for antibodies and things as such as this." I believe Michelle and I had it, but you know what? I wouldn't take your stupid certificate anyway. On Monday, Prime Minister Johnson will inform the British public that following the national lockdown on December 2nd, England will revert back to a regional tier lockdown system. It is believed, however, that many areas will actually face stricter lockdown restrictions than they did under the previous tier system, with the government's SAGE group of scientists calling for more stringent measures. The plan will also reportedly outline the regulations surrounding family Christmas gatherings, so regulations for your family Christmas, which are expected to be limited in regards to how many family members from different households can meet to celebrate the holiday. Gavin Newsom has showed you exactly how many people can get together. Well over 6 families have got together for Gavin Newsom's California $400 plate dinner, where they did not social distance, where they did not wear masks. You don't really
need to get that close to the mic. It's
okay,
really,
so we already know how to go about our lives, which is just to go about our lives, Gavin Newsom and everyone else on the elite. This is all a game. to play with our minds.
Okay, so I need to interrupt you here real quick. Because here's the deal. One of the reasons why you guys have flocked, it's a weird, very strange necklace, have flocked to our channel because we are bringing you hope and joy. And here's the deal. I'm seeing some comments. Can we have a little bit less doom and gloom and all this, that, and the other? This
if you don't know what they're going to do,
we have to talk about what they are going to, what they are trying to do. You can't stick your head
in the ground for an ostrich. Here's the thing. If you don't know what to fight, you won't know how to fight.
Right. Now, so I want to be clear as we talk about this, that we are stronger and we will prevail. And their scheme, God has planned this whole thing out and is allowing them to build it up to this massive crescendo before it comes crashing down. But it doesn't mean that we don't talk about what they are trying to do. So we will try and attempt to do through our show throughout is to constantly remind you that God is in control. Because I've got a comment here from, I think Carrie says, okay, this scares me. I have been having dreams of the same things that you are talking about and wake up terrified. No one seems to understand how a Biden administration terrifies me.
Oh, no. We completely understand.
You don't need to be terrified when God is in control. But what wisdom says is, if that were to happen, it would be bad. As Christians, we say we're not going to let it happen. And God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. Because once they can get you into fear, that's how they get you to start doing the things that you fear they're going to try to get you to do.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to, as best you can, to stay out of fear. And we will try on our show as best we can to present what they are attempting to do to you and not instill fear. Okay, because I've been shutting off any news program that talks, like, if they say what Biden is going to do and what the Biden administration is going to look like, boom, I'm turning it off. I'm not listening to that garbage. I don't need that kind of stuff in my life. Okay. But we are going to give you what the World Economic Forum and the globalists, all of this is tied together. And so as we continue to talk about them getting exposed and the whole house of cards that they have built, it's going to come crashing down in the most fantastic scene in the world. This all goes with it. The coronavirus, someone says on Facebook, do you think that we will ever see the masks go away? Yes. Okay, this is all for a purpose and design.
Okay. Let me explain something one more time. They have the media, they have the DOJ, they have the global elites, but we have the people. What I'm trying to show you is that these people are cuckoo crazy. And you have to know it like it's deep inside your bones.
Yeah.
What I just explained to you about I can't help it. What I just tried to explain to you about the Jewish people. Will they ever let us? Guys, these people don't own you.
Right.
They don't control you. But they only control you because you give them the power to control you. When we, the people, rise up and say, I have these things, they're called the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I have the laws of nature, God written inside of me. Do you understand the spirit of the Declaration of Independence? The reason why you need to read John Locke's First Treaty and Second Treaty of Government. You need to know why governments are instituted. They are for to punish bad people and to reward good people. And when you know it, you can stand and you can fight.
Now, I have to insert something here. Okay?
We can talk about it, but I have so much to cover.
It's important to me when I'm reading the comments from people and I can feel, Leah woke up like a dog on a scent. Like I could feel it in her. She's coming after all of this. It's going to sound like she's coming after you guys. You are our viewers. She is the one that you are the ones that she is defending and getting so righteously indignant about. Okay, so please don't receive Leah's today. It's just pure fire. Okay, like it's coming at you. We are fed up with what they have done. Their brainwashing, the fact that they are putting us in fear, the fact that they are trying to take away our God-given rights and liberties. Okay, we are fighting for you guys. So if today's show is a little bit thick, all right, roll with it. Not all our shows are this thick, but today I can tell already it is. So just bear with us. Continue.
Well, and I have to say, the reason if we're going to Europe, it's a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
Because y'all need more Jesus.
Yeah.
Y'all don't have it there. You can't fight this without the gospel of Jesus Christ. You will lose. But I have good news. I'm fighting for you, so I will win. You need, in the UK, in Poland, and all y'all, you need to be pleading the blood of Jesus over your country. You need to be going in your prayer closets. You need to waken up the Christianity that birthed Western civilization. It was people in their prayer closets, people praying to God, asking for God's deliverance. I'm going to tell you something. If you ask God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, in the name of Jesus to deliver you, he will. And you're at this moment in the UK because you are a godless country right now. Most of your great Christians came over here. Okay? And then we had a bunch of commies come over here and brainwash our kids.
Yeah.
But there's enough Christians here who are praying, who are in our prayer closets, that we will win. God always hears the prayers of his people.
Right.
But you got to know what they're doing. Okay. So, Boris Johnson went globalist. And I'm sorry. He went globalist. And you need to know this. He says, after all we have been through, it isn't enough to just go back to normal. We have lost too much. History teaches us that things of this magnitude, wars, famines, plagues, events that affect the vast bulk of humanity, as the virus has, they do not just come and go. They can be a trigger for economic and social change. Look at these trigger words. Economic, social change, sustainability, build back better. When I heard Johnson utter these words, this is from the European Times here. Where have I heard this before? Well, the answer is in the book of COVID-19, The Great Reset, by Klaus Schwab, the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, and Thierry Malleret. They too, like Johnson, invoked the Second World War as a trigger for fundamental changes, not only for the global order and the global economy, but to society and the way human beings interact with one another. Like Johnson, they don't want to return to normal. Many of us are pondering when things will return to normal. The short response is never. Instead, Schwab and Malleret want a world changed forever by a virus which they admit is only mild compared to others in history. COVID-19 is seen as the catalyst of the fourth industrial revolution. As to where all this is headed, I recommend you read Schwab's The Great Reset and his earlier The Fourth Industrial Revolution. But please don't do so late at night because it will probably give you nightmares. Schwab's elitist Davos man utopia is a transhuman, socially distanced, utterly soulless dystopia from the rest of us. Do you understand why they're shutting down small businesses? Because they want to go to all cryptocurrency, all digital currency. They want to digitize everything you own. It sounds crazy because it is, and you may laugh at it because it will not happen, because the human spirit is greater and you cannot make us into robots. Klaus Schwab, we will not be them. Okay, you guys asked the faux Democrat why the push for the transgenderism, all the genders, to decrease the population, to limit social acting. The reason for COVID-19 is to limit social interaction. The reason they are trying to censor us on the media is to limit social interaction so that all your information comes down from a cloud, from the powers that be. But we humans find a way. Did you ever see Jurassic Park? Life finds a way. Okay? The human spirit beats these guys. We have the trump card. We have the human spirit. We have the power of God. And what I'm trying to do in the show is tell you and show you how to use your trump card, which beats it every time.
Notice how I was thinking about this today when I was passing my cousin's church. I was walking past it this afternoon, and there was no one there. It was early. It was late morning. And I'm like, they should be having service. There were some cars, a couple of cars in the parking lot. They're probably doing like a Zoom, you know, church service or whatever, however they do that online. And I got to thinking about COVID-19 and how the goal of this, in part, was to get rid of churches. Just altogether, because church buildings can't exist if people aren't tithing and giving to these buildings. They won't be able to maintain.
That's why they want to shut down Thanksgiving and Christmas, because they're Christian.
They are trying to, and so it's okay to talk about what they are attempting to do, and they may be mildly successful with some churches and with some families, but their whole goal to get rid of churches, to get rid of Christianity, to get rid of Thanksgiving, to get rid of Christmas is so preposterous. The fact that they think that they could do it means that they don't understand why we have those things.
Here's the thing.
And it's so within us. It's so deep within us
that
we will never let it go.
Okay. I don't want to terrify you. There is no reason for terror here. Because just like the gender ideology, 75% to 80% of people, at least...
Yeah, where nobody's buying this garbage.
Know that there are two genders.
Right.
And when I expose how far crazy they are and how... Here's the thing. I'm getting emails and private messages from people about the Great Reset for people like, well, this is really crazy. Okay? You need to... This is actually a very happy show. Because the more they show they're crazy, the more people come to our side.
Yeah.
So when I show the crazy, more people come to our side. They're really crazy. More people come. They're really crazy. More people come. So actually, when I see that they are out and out saying,
exactly,
Great Reset,
bingo,
and Build Back Better, this is actually a good news for me. This is a great show for me. Because the only way we win is if they are exposed. They've been doing this stuff for 100 years in secret. And we haven't been able to pin them down. They've been jumping all over the place like fleas.
Right.
But now their flea has turned into a room full of rats. And all we need to do is trap them and expose them.
Right.
Do you understand that this level of crazy with Klaus Schwab saying that he wants transhumans to be partial robots?
Can we not?
And
hey, listen.
Hey, stop.
There's 3 dogs. They all want to be right here at our feet.
When Klaus Schwab says that he wants to put chips in everybody's brain and kind of turn everybody into robots, that is so preposterous that even people who might be on the left are like, no, Jack, we ain't signing up for that. So then you have people who will flock to your side. So the more...
That's why Donald Trump won in a red wave.
So when
they went
when
so
we
far
talk about how
side.
Crazy... Here's the thing. If Boris Johnson was doing all this stuff in secret and he wasn't telling you about the Great Reset and telling you about, you know, all this stuff, you've seen the people in the streets. Okay, here's the thing. There's not enough of them, and there's not enough military, and there's not enough police to enforce their rules.
Right.
When you have enough of the people who say, I'm not going to do it, it's unenforceable. Okay, moving on. Okay, so the man who justified a national lockdown in March on a purely temporary 3-week basis to flatten the curve and protect the NHS, and who said in the summer, after the lockdown had lasted 3 months, that he hoped Britain would return to significant normality by November, now tells us we have been through and hardship just to settle for the status quo, to think that life can go on as it was before the plague, and it will not. We are resolving not to go back to 2019. For Johnson, using the globalist phrase "build back better," which is Joe Biden's phrase as well, everybody's on to this, and that's good news. That's good news when they show their cards. Here's the thing, guys. If you're playing a poker game and somebody puts their cards on the table, then you know exactly how to bet on your cards. Okay?
That's really good.
This is the time to launch Britain into the 4th Industrial Revolution, from internet shopping to working from home. They don't want your small businesses. No, Jack. We want small businesses, and you and I have to fight for those small businesses. It means shopping in small businesses. It means supporting small businesses. Okay? When you know what to do and how to put your dollars and your voice, then you will beat them. We will beat them when we come together and we know how to do it. Tommy Robbins is another person they tried to unperson. You need to follow him on Parler. He's fiery there.
Carol says, you're fine, Leah. I haven't lost hope. I feel bad for people who don't see the agenda. I actually fell for a lot of stuff, but I did wake back up, and there is no turning back.
Wake it up. When you're awake, you win.
Yes.
You only lose when you're asleep. It looks as though COVID has massively accelerated changes in the world of work. As old jobs are lost, as new ones are created. The COVID crisis is a catalyst for change because it was created to be. Did Schwab actually write his speech? It looks like it. Although Johnson didn't use the phrase the fourth industrial revolution, he did mention a green industrial revolution twice. Johnson foresees a future in which every home in Britain relies on wind power. He certainly produces a lot of that. And instead of being dragged on big commutes to the city, people can start a business in their own hometown, which would actually be great. You want that to happen, but not according to their plan, okay? And bring up their children in neighborhoods where they grew up themselves. That is a really great idea, and that is a great ideal, but the way that they want to implement these things is no bueno, okay? Working from home is here to stay with gigabyte broadband, shopping from home, and conferencing from home. In fact, let's do everything from home. Who needs to meet another human being? Not that there'd be anywhere to meet with pubs, cinemas, and theaters all closed down due to the never-ending coronavirus restrictions. And this is where I want to get you guys excited, because with the globalist elite and their whole plan to change the world, they are actually doing things that is destroying their power. Without Hollywood, they can't brainwash us because very few of us actually turn on any mainstream media. So they brainwash us through entertainment. If we're not flocking to concerts and flocking to movies to hear their next agenda that they have out there, they lose their power.
Right, exactly.
So they're losing their power. And what they didn't count on by having kids at home, as I have a friend in France, a lot of parents are like, well, this homeschool thing is actually kind of nice. I like having my kids around. They didn't think about anything outside of that, which is why the push to get kids back in school now. Oh, we need the kids back in the brainwashing institutions. That's what we need to. Kids need to be back in school, right? And they didn't recognize that when they made people lock down and be at home, that they would the families might actually start to take walks and love one another. There were a lot of good things that came out of those lockdowns that they hadn't anticipated. And actually what happened when they locked everybody down, they weren't being brainwashed by the movies and sports anymore, then they began to focus on this stuff.
Which is, yeah, exactly.
And so they lost their cover. They literally shut down their cover, okay? So they have no cover anymore because their cover is to entertain us like a Pied Piper. Okay, people in America aren't watching sports. I don't know anything about sports. Nobody knows anything about sports. Okay, they're just focused on this stuff right now. All right, the World Economic Forum, founded by Schwab, has been increasingly influential when it comes to changes we've already seen in 2020 and what is being openly planned for the future. So there's a scripture: all things work together for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So we have a prayer. God, I pray what the enemy has for evil that you turn around for good.
Amen.
There's scripture that says that the pit that they dig for themselves, that they will fall in. And there's also the story of Esther, where Haman built these gallows for Mordecai, and then Haman got hung on the gallows that he built. And so right now, Michelle and I have been talking about this. They're building their own gallows. They're hanging them. They're digging. All this stuff that they're doing right here, when I show you something, it literally is their own pit. It's not we will not go into this pit because the only way into this pit is willingly.
Wow, that's good.
They can't force us in.
Right.
They can't force us in. There's too many of us.
That actually reminds me of when it comes to Christianity and the devil. A lot of people think that the devil has so much more power than he actually does. Yeah, the devil, as a Christian, cannot touch you.
Exactly.
The only way he actually ever can touch you is if you let him, if you open a door. But he could be all around you, and if you got all your doors closed, if you have the armor of God on, he cannot touch you. And that's the same thing with them. They can't push us into this pit. The only way, and that's what's happened within the last 100 years, why things have gotten seemingly worse, or actually have gotten worse, not just seemingly, is because we let it happen, and that's over.
So this is what I love, infighting amongst the globalists here, because China says that Britain will suffer if it continues to stand up to the CCP and lose billions in Chinese investment, warned a Chinese lobby group in the United Kingdom. Wen Jinfeng, the chairman of the China Chamber of Commerce in the United Kingdom, which represents hundreds of Chinese businesses, including Huawei, ZTE, and Air China, threatened that China will throw its economic muscle around should Britain continue to ban Chinese companies. He went on to say, that Fang, who also serves as the head of the state-owned Bank of China in the UK, went on to go after the Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Build Back Better green agenda, warning that China could pull its funding from Hinkley's Point C nuclear power plant. They are prepared to make further big, substantial investment in the UK, but they are not waiting to see what decisions the UK government is going to make, adding, "Why do you close the door and send them away? Okay, go and find another partner. The plan to reduce emissions will be heavily impacted." He went on to warn that British companies with large exports to China, such as Jaguar, Land Rover, and Burberry, could face ramifications as well. If the UK continues to be hostile to China, to Chinese companies and goods, what will the public reactions in China be? The public will say, okay, if you don't buy from us, why should we buy from you? So there is definitely there's definitely an infighting here. Hong Kong Watch founder Benedict Rogers described the threats from Mr. Fang as more bullying by the Chinese Communist Party regime. "We need global coordinated target and robust sanctions against the CCP. We need them now." The chairman of the powerful Foreign Affairs Committee in the House of Commons, Tom Tungenhat, MP, said the Chinese businesses claim to be independent, but they threaten like the Central Committee of the CCP. "We've seen the same tactics used in Australia. They have stood up to this threat to their sovereignty, and we must too." And then China has spent the last 2 decades dumping millions of pounds of sterling into investment projects in Britain, as well as buying stakes in Heathrow and Thames Water. Do you see the Chinese Communist Party has also sought to gain influence within the British universities through state-backed Confucius Institute propaganda departments on campuses across the country. In May, Huawei, which has been characterized as effectively state-owned, pumped $5 million into the Imperial College in London, the university whose doomsday predictions for the Chinese coronavirus sparked the lockdowns throughout the world. Now, remember this. China came out, and as Matt pointed out, we had people stumbling and falling over, but it wasn't like falling over in a natural way. China wanted the world to think that they had a huge virus that was out of control. I don't know all the ins and outs and why this thing happened, but I know that China only lets things out through propaganda.
Sure.
Okay, I know that the doctors who were whistleblowers, that they died. I do know that there's a Hong Kong virologist who says that this particular virus was actually created in a lab, okay, and spread. I have their videos in the United States of Chinese people who were visibly sick, touching things all over, like in Walmart. I don't know why they were doing that, but those videos were around. Some Chinese lady, some Asian lady was buying up all the masks. I don't know why. Maybe it was in an effort to make you think you needed a mask. This is like 5D chess, where I don't know exactly what everybody's trying to do. Because at first it looked like they were trying to buy up the masks so that you would think you needed to wear masks. So there's a lot here to figure out, and you need the Holy Spirit to figure it out. So the Polish Prime Minister says that the EU oligarchy wielding propaganda bludgeon like former communist regime. Poland is standing up. We need to stand with them. They're great. They got the little hussars. Poland's Prime Minister Morawiecki has accused the European Union of wielding a propaganda bludgeon against his country like the communist regime of old. National, conservative-led Poland and Hungary are currently locked in a dispute with the EU establishment, George Soros, and their allies in the international press over their decision to veto the EU's proposed multi-annual budget, which included a substantial coronavirus relief package because provisions requiring member states to follow so-called rule of law and values provisions had been attached. The Poles and Hungarians are being blamed for the budget's failure to pass because of the veto, but they argue that it was not their decision to politicize it by attaching the aforementioned provisions, which they believe would be used to deprive them of funds for refusing to submit to compulsory migrant redistribution quotas or for going ahead with judicial reforms, which the EU opposes. The rule of law has become a propaganda bludgeon in the EU. Says the Prime Minister of the Law and Justice Party. We know that the use of propaganda bludgeons very well from communist times, he recalled, adding that a European Union in which there is a European oligarchy that punishes the weaker and pushes them into a corner is not the EU that we joined. This is not an EU that has a future. Other members of the Polish government are equally robust, echoing arguments previously advanced by the Brexit campaigners in the UK. The establishment in Germany and Brussels is trying to carry out a revolution and create a single European state based in Brussels or maybe Germany.
They've been trying to do that since the end of World War II.
Exactly.
Okay? They had a little slap on the hand. Some people went to jail. Some people committed suicide. But those that still were like, I'm going to continue with my plan 7 years later, or however many it was, they start the European Union. The same exact people that were trying to take over Europe with Hitler decided, you know what, we've been going about this the wrong way. Maybe if we just get people to join, we can have a world takeover. So I want to encourage you that they've been trying to do this for a very long time. It's taken many years to build up, and they still aren't anywhere close to what they have wanted to achieve.
You show them the Polish Hussar, the winged Hussars. They're not bowing. They're not bowing. It's our winged Hussar. Somebody sent us from Poland. The Poles and Hungarians do have some reason to believe that the EU's dominant powers intended to use any rule of law in the budget to interfere in domestic politics, with European Parliament Vice President Katrina Barley of Germany having suggested they should be starved financially if they do not govern in a way Brussels approves. That is not a representative democracy. That's not what you come together and until you agree with us, until you vote with us, we will punish you. That's not how this thing works.
Right.
Okay? In Brussels today, they only view countries which let migrants in as those governed by the rule of law. Those who protect their borders cannot qualify as countries where rule of law prevails, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban observed over the budget veto. Once this proposal gets adopted, there will be no more obstacles in tying member states' share of common funds to supporting migration and use financial means to blackmail countries who oppose migration. So Hungary is standing up. I want to get to...
It's an awful picture.
I'm sorry. I want to get to Viktor Orban over here.
That's
Hungarian Prime Minister says Soros is one of the most corrupt people in the entire world, and he absolutely is. Fox News, some people are allowed to say his name, and then other people never are allowed to show their face again. It's
right.
Really
Here in
weird.
Resistance Chicks, you're allowed to say his name as many times as you want. It's not like Voldemort.
Soros.
Okay.
Soros.
But
Soros.
you came to me this morning and you were talking about some people accusing Sidney Powell of being off her rocker and all this, that, and the other, and she's so crazy. And listen,
Soros is cray-cray.
Sidney Powell.
I know, but he's crazy.
What I'm saying is that's a given. There's a reason why you're not allowed to say his name, okay? Because he might send spirits out to kill you. But we do know that he has a global agenda, and he funds, who knows where he gets all this money, okay? He funds all of these far left, whatever, activist groups. And so when we find out that Soros has a tie to Dominion, and one of his subsidiaries had an office, we talked about yesterday on the show.
We're going to talk about that today.
Right next to Dominion. Things that make you go, Huh. So anybody out there going, Sidney Powell, oh, she's off her rocker, she's just lost it, yada, yada, yada. I'm going, where have you been?
Yeah.
We know if George Soros is tied to it, it is a global attempt to undermine all democracy. Carry on.
Hungarian's Prime Minister Viktor Orban lambasted billionaire plutocrat George Soros as one of the most corrupt people in the world after he called on the European Union to make Hungary and Poland submit to open society values. George Soros is threatening Hungary and Poland, said Prime Minister Viktor Orban on a radio program Friday, referencing the 90-year-old arch activist public lobbying of the EU to deprive the conservative-led Central European countries of funding. George Soros is one of the most corrupt people in the world. He has plenty of politicians in his pocket who now want to blackmail Hungary and Poland for access to EU funds. The Hungarian leader continued, accusing the billionaire of spreading absurd, beyond the red line statements about his country. Soros had claimed, among other things, that Orban has constructed in Hungary an elaborate kleptocratic system to rob the country blind. The amount by which he has enriched his family and friends is difficult to estimate, but many of them have become exceedingly wealthy in a recent article, not without a certain level of irony considering his own vast fortune and past conviction of insider trading. There's a quote where George Soros says, "If I didn't do it, someone else would have," on insider trading and fleecing America. And you also know...
I thought he said that about if I didn't... I thought he was talking about robbing...
No, that was particularly about the on the stock market and financial things. But he was adopted by a Christian person, even though he was Jewish. And he helped gather up his fellow Jews' belongings while they were put on train cars to go to Auschwitz, and he laughed about it.
I'm sure that quote is, he is quoted as saying that there.
Michelle, he might have said it there too, but that is particularly when he's talking about his, how he got so wealthy. He said, if I didn't do it, somebody else would, on the insider trading and the fleecing of stock market.
Well, obviously, if he has that opinion, then he would have had that same opinion, and I'm pretty sure he is.
Hungary and Poland are clashing with the EU establishment. We're talking about this budget here, but to have Soros weigh in just lets you know that you're definitely on the right. On the right side, in the 1989 roundtable talks between Poland's communist and the democratic opposition, then President General Jaruzelski, I'm not going to say it right, Jaruzelski, the man who ran Poland's martial law government for the Soviets, was allowed to nominate an entirely new bench of communist-era judges. And this has been one of the things that the Law and Justice Party has been trying to get those communist judges off. And the EU is saying that they're acting like totalitarians by doing that. That's absolutely insane. To staff the post-communist courts, these judges dominated the Polish judiciary for the next quarter century, and some still remain in place. Poland and Hungary do have some reason to believe the rule of law provisions would have been used as a way of forcing compliance, and we talked about that, to try to starve them into position. George Soros suggested fiscal penalties against those who did not accept migrants. Who is he? Who is he to say anything about anyone? Is he elected to anything? Has anybody put him in a place of position of power? Have the people put him in a place of a position of power? George Soros is not elected, but he has strong-armed his way from the days when he found it. He has been an opportunist since he was a teenager and helped Nazis round up his fellow Jews. This is an evil man. Straight to the core, and he laughs about it. He says he learned things from his childhood. You can go see the video if you want.
It's a 60 Minutes interview.
Yeah. All right.
Carrie says he was asked if it bothered him robbing his own people. He said, no, the way I see it, if I did not do it, someone else would have. Thank you, Carrie.
So, I don't know if you guys saw this this week, but Denmark did a study on the effectiveness of wearing masks. No one has ever done a study like this in the public on wearing masks out in public. I'm sorry, I gotta get this. Every time it keeps coming up. I don't know why. I need to shut down the Every Time is really great. It's a little advertisement for them right here. They're putting up hundreds of articles. The results of the world's biggest coronavirus mask studies are in. Denmark did the study. It doesn't do much to support the suggestion of zealots like Joe Biden that they should be made compulsory. According to the Dan Masks 19 study published in the prestigious journal Annals of Internal Medicine, there was no statistically significant difference between the mask-wearing group and non-mask-wearing group. I know a lot of people, maybe, well, it didn't say that they were harmful. So, no, what we're looking at, there's no statistical differences if you're going to get COVID or not by wearing the mask.
But this study can't, and there's really no way to address how it protects other people. We're talking specifically in this study about the efficacy of wearing a mask to protect yourself from getting the coronavirus.
Our results suggest that the recommendation to wear a surgical mask when outside of the home, among others, did not reduce at conventional levels of statistical significance the incidence of SARS-CoV-2 infection in mask wearers in a setting where social distancing and other public measures were in effect. Mask recommendations were not among those measures, and community use of masks was uncommon. Yet the findings were inconclusive and cannot definitively exclude a 46% reduction to a 23% increase in infection of mask wearers in such a setting. It is important to emphasize that this trial did not address the effects of masks as a source control or as a protection in settings where social distancing and other public health measures are not in effect. The study conducted in Denmark in April and May of this year is the largest randomized controlled study on the efficacy of masks against COVID-19 infection. There was a total of 3,030 participants were randomly assigned to the recommendation to wear masks About 2,994 were assigned to the control. 4,862 completed the study. Infection with SARS-CoV-2 occurred in 42 patients, recommended masks, and 53 in the control participants. This between group difference was 0.3 percentage points. The multiple imputation accounting for loss to follow-up yielded similar results, although the difference observed was not statistically significant. What this means is that the results are inconclusive. Fewer mask wearers ended up catching COVID than non-mask wearers, but not enough to demonstrate convincingly that masks make any real difference preventing the spread of COVID. Study limitations included reliance on patient-reported data, inability to blind study participants into the intervention, and the loss of patients to follow up. This is the same study that was mysteriously declined by the world's top 3 medical journalists. One of the study's co-author, Thomas Lars Benfield, hinted that this was because the findings were so controversial that journals don't dare publish them. But now finally the study has been published, and the findings appear to be much blander than Benfield's comment implied. That this has prompted speculation that in order to get their study published, the authors may have removed more controversial findings.
Wow. In
the original protocol for the study, there were a number of other outcomes that they planned to assess. The difference between the 2 study groups and the return swabs, distribution of the face mask users, psychological effects of wearing face masks, psychological aspects of face mask wearing in the community, costs associated with wearing versus not wearing face masks, cost effectiveness analysis on the use of surgical face masks. These and others might have given a more rounded cost benefit analysis of masks, taking into account not just their effectiveness or otherwise as a barrier to viruses, but also potential adverse consequences. So they might have removed the psychological aspect.
Wow.
To whereas how did you feel wearing this? How did this make you feel?
So the data is probably there.
Yeah.
And probably will get released at a later date. And we can be anxiously awaiting that.
So nervous EU nations actually demand no deal planning as the UK progresses on other deals. So France, Belgium, and the Netherlands are reportedly demanding the EU's executive arm publish the bloc's no deal planning as the deadline for agreeing on a deal in the European Parliament looms. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom has been seeing progress on other trade deals with Australia and Canada.
I think that any person involved in this who has a child who waits until 4:30 in the morning to study for one of the most important tests of their lives has no right whatsoever to tell their child that they were wrong and that they had weeks in advance knowing that the test was coming up. Like, you have no right as a parent to tell your child that they should not have done that because you are complicit in doing you had years, man, years to prepare for this and you did nothing. Why? And I'll tell you why. Because they're holding out for the last ditch. Like, please, we're just supposed to remain. Who cares what the people voted on?
Yeah.
That's why we're dragging our feet. Some miracle has to happen.
So the EU has been playing hardball with the British in negotiations, particularly in terms of fishing regulation and other disputes over a deal would be arbitrated by the European Court of Justice. The bloc's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, has held off releasing no-deal plans to member states to give the British leverage in ongoing tasks. This is such a child's game. I'm not going to show you because I don't want to give you any leverage with the UK because, and then remember when I think it was a month or two ago where they're like, I think we might need to recognize that a deal might need to be beneficial to the UK.
Right.
We just can't make it a big punishment. Like, maybe something about it might need to be good for them. They might, you know what I mean? It can't just all like be, we hate you, UK, and here you're going to suffer because of the deal. Like,
right.
Maybe we should try that route. And then they were like, no, Jack, forget that, right? We don't want anybody else thinking that they could leave and making it look good, right? We have to keep our power, says George Soros.
But, again, I want to do Dr. Steve Turley. The good news is they keep trying. And they keep failing. They're not succeeding at dragging their feet. They aren't succeeding at like everything that they keep trying. They are not doing well with it.
Yeah, so nervous states with the most to lose from a no deal are now pressuring the European Commission to release those papers. Okay, we need to know how this could go down. And the United Kingdom due to leave the EU's institutions on January 1st, 2021, just right around the corner, baby. If they don't have nothing planned, nothing in place. This is what are we doing, man? What are we doing? What are we doing? If there's no deal, the British will trade with the bloc largely on WTO or terms. One senior EU diplomat told the Times on Thursday that we need a safety net. Just they don't have a really good thing on timing.
You could have just had a legit plan and carried it out. There's no safety net.
Of course, this sends out a political signal, but it is high time to prepare people and businesses in case we cannot fix on an agreement in time. It's high time. We got a month to go.
Here's the thing.
I know member states.
Can we just say that it would have made perfect sense to have a plan A and a detailed, ready to go plan B.
Yeah.
Okay? They were holding out for plan A and going, well, if we have to have plan B, then we just throw our hands up and just wing it. Don't get a deal. Here is exactly laid out how we're going to roll with this. Everything's going to be in place, ready to go. Just flip the switch. So they didn't because they don't want to do that.
Yeah, so a lot of member states want to know what the contingency measures are, and they want those out in the open.
It shouldn't be called a contingency measure. It should just be the plan.
Barnier told a meeting of EU commissioners on Wednesday that Brussels and London are in the final push to agree on a deal in time for it to be ratified by the European Parliament in time for the end of the parliamentary session. Thursday, the 19th, was already slated as a deadline to agree on a deal, but the date has passed. Sources have also ruled out that an agreement may be revealed on Monday or Tuesday, but there's no breakthrough on the famous 3 points. Meanwhile, British trade envoy Tony Abbott, a former Prime Minister of Australia, says there is eagerness in his home country to sign a trade deal by Christmas. Mr. Abbott told the Commons International Trade Committee on Wednesday, I know on both sides there's an eagerness to try and get Australian deal done before Christmas, and I hope in the next negotiation session, both sides are prepared to pool all their cards on the table so that the best deal can be hammered out. Ideally, a deal between Britain and Australia will involve no tariffs, no quotas, as full as possible mutual recognition of standards and qualifications, and as free as possible movement of people for well-paid work, no welfare. Bloomberg reported on Wednesday that a trade deal between Britain and Canada is actually imminent, with sources telling the news network that the announcement is set to be made in days. Such a trade deal could be a matter of rolling over the EU's deal, the CETA, with Canada. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said last week, I know that rolling over and demonstrating free trade deals is important for the UK government. Canada is really easy one, and we're there for it. We'd like to do it. So we'll see. Right. We'll see what that turns out.
I need to take Holly. They're on their way. Where's her leash?
On the washing machine dryer.
The washing machine dryer.
Yep.
Got it.
So Germany commemorates the 75th anniversary of the landmark Nuremberg trials. 75 years ago, the dock of courtroom 600 of the Nuremberg Palace of Justice was packed with some of the most nefarious figures of the 20th century. Hermann Göring, Rudolf Hess, Joachim von Ribbentrop, and 18 other high-ranking Nazis. They weren't yet known as war criminals. It was a charge that didn't exist until the Nuremberg trials began on November 20th, 1945, in what is now seen as the birthplace of a new era of international law. The proceedings broke new ground in holding government leaders individually responsible for their aggression and slaughter of millions of innocents. In addition to establishing the offense of war crimes, it also produced the charges of crimes against peace, waging a war of aggression and crimes against humanity, whose legacies live on in the International Criminal Court today. Nuremberg was the city where Adolf Hitler reviewed torchlight Nazi Party rallies and promulgated the race laws of 1935 that paved way for the Holocaust. And here's the leading Nazis in the dock on the courtroom in the final stages of war crime trials. Filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl's famous propaganda movie Triumph of the Will, with its sweeping aerial photography and other pioneering techniques, brought the 1934 Nuremberg Nazi Party Congress to the world, with footage of top officials speaking to massive crowds of followers at the Bavarian city's Leitpold Arena and the sweeping Zeppelin Field. The Congress Hall, begun by the Nazis near the parade grounds, was never finished, and today houses a documentation center about Nuremberg's history during the Nazi era. The choice to use the city's Palace of Justice for the trials was less symbolic than pragmatic. The testimony of hundreds of witnesses was heard over 218 trial days. One of them was Rudolf Höss, the Auschwitz death camp commandant, who reacted to the order to slaughter human beings as he would have in order to fell trees. Chief U.S. Prosecutor Robert Jackson and his colleagues also had the Nazis' own meticulous records to work from, quoting document from document in laying bare the workings of the German conspiracy. And on October 1st, 1946, Göring, Hitler's Air Force chief and right-hand man, was sentenced to death, along with 11 others, including Martin Bormann, Hitler's deputy, who was tried in absentee. Bormann is now known to have died in Berlin in 1945 as he tried to flee the Soviets. 7 drew long prison sentences and 3 were acquitted. 15 days later, the condemned men were hanged in the courthouse adjacent to prison. Göring committed suicide by swallowing a poison pill in his cell the night before. One of the last surviving witnesses to the trial, Emilio Di Palma, died earlier this year after contracting the coronavirus. After fighting the Germans on the front lines during the war, Di Palma found himself at the age of 19 being tasked to serve as a guard in the courtroom, where he stood as a witness and at the witness box with his arms clasped behind his back while Hitler's deputies were grilled about their atrocities. To this day, I can hardly believe that any human being could do such cruel things to another. The other day on CNN, they played a clip of Jewish people being persecuted and starved to death. And they compared Donald Trump to Hitler. On CNN. We know that for the past 4 years, we've been called Hitler, we've been called Nazis, we've been called all kinds of things. And yet, here in America, we just had an election where 13 House seats flipped from Democrat to Republican, and there are immigrants, there are more women, and it's the most diverse party that of freshman Congress people that the Republican Party's ever had. You see, under Donald Trump, the world has created a new party. It's not called the Republican Party. You could maybe say conservative. Maybe somebody wants to call it the America First Party, but if it's worldwide, what do we call it? We call it the People's Party. I'd call it the John Lockean Party. Something was birthed. And not simply because of Donald Trump. But Donald Trump led the charge. And one thing my mom has always pointed out, when you know you're innocent, and I know Donald Trump is innocent, I know that that whole Charlottesville thing was a setup to try to frame the Nazi frame. That what they accuse you of is what they're guilty of. And so, because they have said over and over again, Donald Trump's a Nazi, he's Hitler, these people are Nazis, and they say it over and over again. It's because, and I hate to say it, but it's coming from their own mouths. That's who they are. When you take over an entire government, and I can use America as an example, but it's worldwide. When you have a sitting president of the United States, Barack Obama, sitting in a room with his vice president, and it says, let's go after General Flynn for the Logan Act. Joe Biden and many other people unmasked General Flynn. They used a fake Steele dossier as an insurance policy, and we know it because we have text messages, as a coup to take down the sitting president of the United States. This is not conjecture. This isn't a theory. It's been proven, and people wonder, why aren't people in jail? Because the people who run the investigations are still there. How are they going to arrest themselves? Peter Strzok, he's been fired. It doesn't matter that he changed a 302 to try to frame General Flynn. Now the DOJ under William Barr said, well, you know, maybe we'll investigate the investigators, and they kind of got this wrong. No, they didn't get it wrong. This was a purposeful. Nazis are fascists. What they believe is that they don't need to be elected, that they don't need the will of the people, and that if the will of the people elect a president, that they have the right to lie and to manipulate. We had Adam Schiff, we had leaders from all over the world saying that Donald Trump was connected to Russia, where he wasn't. And it was a lie, and they knew it was a lie. And they gaslighted the people. But gaslighting, it goes out. And that's what my show is about. Because, and I don't like to do it because they have overused the term Nazi. They've overused the term fascist. But the only reason that they don't have you and I in concentration camps kicking us, burning us, is because they don't have the power to do that. But they would. That's their spirit. When Nancy Pelosi gets up there and these leaders and George Soros says, I want to starve you financially, Poland and Hungary, he is a fascist. He is a Nazi. He was given the power of Nazi Germany. You see, they've recognized that they're going to fight a different kind of battle. One that isn't done and fought with machine guns and tanks. Because collateral damage and their own people get hurt. They don't want to die themselves. I'm going to have Michelle bring my battery down. They're killing people and massacring people and silencing people via online, and now they're doing it with the lockdowns. Okay? And so we get to do this thing. It's called being retrospective. Hindsight is 20/20 and learning from our past. They're making us all now the deplorables. We're all the Jews and the gays and the black people that the Nazis rounded up. And wrong thinkers. But we have the power of God. We have the love of God. We have the gospel of Jesus Christ. And here's the thing. Their net isn't big enough for all of us. And we're stronger. And we're smarter. And we've learned. And that's what I want you guys to learn. We have to believe that we serve a God who is just. And I don't need to round these people up and send them to jail. There's a scripture that says his mercies are new every morning and his justice is new every morning. God will bring justice to these people because he is a just God. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, George Soros, the Justin Trudeau's, the Emmanuel Macrons, and now even the Boris Johnson. And we're going to get on to Prince Charles, who are trying to control us in such a way. They think that they know how to run our lives and to run us at a global scale. And that's not how this world works. I'm going to go over here and play The Great Reset. These crazy kooks. Absolute crazy kooks. I'm going to run up, and as I play this, I'm going to get my battery and plug myself in. Sky News Australia. Now, sometimes we can be funny, and I wish I was funny all the time, and I get a little serious because these people are so crazy, but Sky News Australia, they know how to have a good laugh at The Great Reset.
Old mate Blackface Trudeau. Now, of course, he was forgiven because he's a lefty. Everyone else has run out of town. Well, old Blackface is out there suggesting, well, he's one of these lefty world leaders who says now is the time under the cover of COVID for the Great Reset, for the Build Back Better nonsense. Essentially, to achieve the entire lefty shopping list, now's the chance for income equality, all the rest of it here. Well, you chant yes, Nicholas Reese. But, you know, the Great Reset, he said the quiet bit out loud, didn't he?
Look, I'm worried about you, Paul. Like, where's your optimism? Where's your hope for the future gone? Like, what is actually wrong with building back better? Like, why can't we learn from this experience and take a step forward as a species, you know, for humankind? What is wrong with tackling inequality? What is wrong with ending poverty? What is wrong with getting on top of climate change? Like, these are the things that humankind should be aspiring to do.
Okay,
that's not what the misery of COVID-19 creates the opportunity for us to do it. Well, I say good on you, Justin Trudeau.
Okay, could we get all three guests on the screen at once here? Could we all see all three guests at once? Because I need to pick between Rita or Matt about who is hungrier to answer what's wrong with Build Back Better. Set it up. You know, you used your name
I'm
first.
ready to go.
Go for it. Build Back Better.
All right,
what does
I
it
got the
actually
buzzer.
mean?
I hit the buzzer first. Well, I don't know if Nick's watched the Great Reset video that the World Economic Forum has put out. It's freely available. It's under their logo. They say that by 2030, they don't want anyone to own property. You'll own no property, and you'll be happier. Apparently, you'll be happy because you're told to be happy. So, Nick, send all your property up to me, because you'll be happier without it. This stuff is crazy, kooky stuff, but it also, Paul, I think it actually does one thing that the World Economic Forum and Justin Trudeau is helpfully doing. This is the real battle line, in my view, in politics here, between those who want to allow people to take control of their own lives and communities and run their own countries, their own states, their own local councils, like in Nicholas's case, the way they'd like to see them run, and those who are pushing for one unified global order that takes away agency or sovereignty from any individual. Because if we have one global order, you're one of about 8 billion people, and you can't really control your own environment. Whereas when we invest in smaller communities and give power to local governments, to state governments, and to national governments, you can have a lot more influence. And I think we've seen a pushback against the globalisation order in the last 10 years, and I'm very much hopeful to keep pushing back against that, because the more we give power back to local and small governments, the better communities we'll have, the more investment, more vested interest people will have in their own community, and therefore the better decisions will be made.
Rita, I think that the Great Reset, Build Back Better, it's the economic BLM, right? It is the Trojan horse, where the bumper sticker is great, but there's an awful lot of nasty in there.
Oh, absolutely. All the stuff that Nicholas said, none of it is going to be achieved by the policies they're advocating. It's absolutely a cynical exercise to use a tragedy, to use a pandemic, a crisis, to further their political agenda, which they've always had. This political agenda wasn't born because of this crisis. It wasn't some moment where they thought, oh, we can do things better. This is what they have been pushing for decades, and they're trying to use this moment, this incredible moment in history to advance that cause. And I think people are pretty smart about what's happening here. This isn't some genuine attempt to bring about end of poverty and equality or anything else that's virtuous that anybody would want.
Yeah, agree completely.
All right. I'm sorry, Paul. I've just got to jump in here, because I really, again, feel for you guys. I mean, what a pack of sad sacks. I mean, what does your bumper sticker say? Build back the same? Like, we should hope
we love coal. My bumper sticker says we love coal. That's what my
bumper sticker says...
I'll send you some bumper stickers.
Yeah, my bumper sticker says honky for horny.
I'll level with you, Matt. I'll level with you, Matt. I do carry a candle for you. I reckon you're a great guy, but you seriously, pal, you've been spending too much time on the dark web. You really have, with all that sort of World Economic Forum stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're lost there. You just you won too many click-throughs on the links there.
At least once a week.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
so let me give you a really
unhealthy.
It's in their own name, Nick. They put it out. They put it out.
So let me make it real for you.
So how will you pay for Build Back Better in Melbourne?
Well, yes, let me make it real for you. I'm so glad you asked, Paul. So before COVID-19, on any night in Melbourne, we would typically have around 500 people sleeping rough on the footpaths in the parks of the central city. Now, during COVID-19, they have been put into short-stay accommodation, into hotels which are empty, into other accommodation which was available. And we don't, and I don't think anyone in Melbourne wants to see those people back on the streets
how are you going to pay for
rough
it?
Again. And so now there's a
So are you
massive
saying
investment
the homelessness
going on and
crisis
building
in
new
Melbourne's
public
over?
housing stock.
Did you
building
just say the
social
homelessness
housing,
crisis
so
in Melbourne's over long term? There will be no homeless on the streets in Melbourne.
Nicholas.
Yeah, I'm not about to
Is
make
that what
a
you're
Bob Hawke
pledging?
style, there'll be no more poverty type prediction.
Yeah,
that's what you
right.
just said.
A huge leap forward in getting
Because
rough
of
sleepers off
COVID,
our
we got
streets
people
and getting
off the
homeless
streets from
people
sleeping on the
a
streets
home.
in Melbourne.
And that's a
Well,
great thing that's happened
so
because
far,
of
we're not so good in
COVID-19.
San
So we
Francisco.
are, in that instance, building back better, Rita.
Sure, but okay, help
But
me out
is that a permanent
Nicholas,
arrangement, or is this a short-term thing? Is that
Yeah, that's
actually
right.
you're pledging that there will be no more homeless people on the street. There will be a bed for everybody who wants it.
Look, unfortunately, I cannot give you that roll gold guarantee, but what I can tell you is that there has been a great reset in terms of homelessness in Melbourne so far, and we want to see that continue.
Well, that one step to eliminating global poverty. Did you notice that?
Let's drop the labels. And I've got no.
That's what Rita was saying. Like, you're pie in the sky. They literally, part of the thing is to eliminate global poverty. And guys, like, we got 500 people off the streets. Right there, baby. We just took one giant chunk out of global poverty right there.
Saying that is great if you can achieve that. And as a deputy mayor, you can do that in Melbourne. Fantastic. What I'm saying is I don't want those type of decisions made in Davos. I don't want international agreements tying us down, tying you down there in Melbourne, or me here in Rockhampton, about what we can do in our own local communities. And look, if you want to call it Build Back Better, a Great Reset, whatever, but the reset needs to be that we need to give local people an opportunity to make their communities better and not sign away our own independence and sovereignty to some international body who are full of people who don't understand our own community.
So funny, because the guy in the middle, he obviously hasn't heard Klaus Schwab say, you know, we want a great reset. We want transhumanism. Like, seriously, it's so funny. It's like you've been just like reading. These are their own words. Here we have.
Here's the deal. What's so interesting that guy mentioned the dark web, and so many people, they love to throw that out there when
like it's a conspiracy. Like, it's not on the dark web. It's on stinking YouTube.
Well, exactly. What I want to say is, like, it's not just YouTube. There are articles that are being written that have proof with videos from their own people. This is not dark web stuff. This is just
we did our whole show last week.
But it used to be on the dark web, and that's part of the resistance chicks. Be encouraged. It's all out in the open now.
This is what I'm excited about, because they did say, the World Economic Forum says 2030 you won't own anything and your life will be happier. Like, that's their own words.
Boris Johnson is going green. The British Prime Minister announced a nearly $16 billion plan to boost green industries and tackle climate change. By 2030, sales of new gas and diesel cars will be banned, and the government will back investment in electric vehicles and green energy. Johnson says the plan will create or support up to 250,000 jobs.
So, these great wind farms, with wind coming out of Bojo's mouth, will actually... Who knew? Drive your car for you. So why didn't we think of that?
Yeah.
Why didn't we think of that?
Do you know how much coal it takes to actually, not fossil fuels, I mean, that it takes to
build
these
a windmill?
It's not a windmill. We're in favor of windmills. Wind turbines we are not in favor of. I think Holland does really well with their windmills.
Yeah.
We can build back better. I'm looking forward to getting started as soon as we can.
Build back better. What does Biden's slogan mean? Known for his plagiarism, he is not the only one to have used it.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change. Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs.
The third foundation is to build back better to create a stronger, more resilient Canada.
But after all we've been through, it isn't enough just to go back to normal. We've lost too much. We've mourned too many. We've been through too much frustration and hardship just to settle for the status quo ante, to think that life can go on as it was before the plague. And it will not, because history teaches us that events of this magnitude, wars, famines, plagues, events that affect the vast bulk of humanity, as this virus has, they don't just come and go. They are more often than not the trigger for an acceleration of social and economic change, because we human beings will simply not content ourselves with a repair job. We see these moments as the time to learn and to improve on the world that went before. And that's why this government will build back better.
I got good news for you. Good news. He's right, but it's going to be God.
That's so good.
God is going to build back better,
true.
But not your global greeny weeny, wind turbine-y, solar panel-y,
or
major
FDR,
corporation.
A New Deal-y.
Right. So this is again from the Outsiders here. Prince Charles is now selling. And by the way, the Prince Charles can't be king because he will become a dictator. And you want to know why? The royal family is supposed to be apolitical. They're not supposed to come out and tell people how to live and how to do things and how to do things in politics. But Prince Charles has become a political powerhouse, using his position as first in line to the throne of England to control and manipulate this fascist agenda. And you guys, I don't know if you like him or not, but he has become a fascist. Like, what they call Trump of doing, he is doing. He is literally working with these people to do the 2030. He is behind the Boris Johnson and the Global Economic Forum. He is meeting with and working with Klaus Schwab on the transhumanism and all the digital currencies and the craziness. But it's weird because I know he has like these organic farms and he meets with Joe Salatin. But he is doing it in such a way that is not right. Okay, these people think that they know how to tell you how to farm, how you to control, and they can't allow people to do what they feel is best.
Out of the Germans.
Die gegenwärtige Pandemie und der Klimawandel haben eines gemeinsam. Sie kennen keine Grenzen und zeigen uns.
My mistake. That was, of course, the heir to the throne of Australia and Great Britain,
Why
Prince
does that
Charles,
creep me out?
now selling his eco-fascist fantasy of the Great Reset to the Germans themselves, or should I say, der große Neustart.
That was Prince Charles, for anybody that couldn't see.
Schwab and his cronies call it in their native tongue.
Speaking German.
This is the grand plan developed by the World Economic Forum that we chatted to James Dellingpole about, in cahoots with the United Nations, in league with the International Monetary Fund, and supported by all sorts of prestigious institutions, including, apparently, the Crown of England, who have yet to disown Prince Charles's ever-increasing and unhinged rantings. This is the Great Reset, der große Neustart, promised to begin next year to transform all Western economies, including ours, by transferring the authoritarian tools currently being used to eradicate the coronavirus.
I don't mean to be rude or anything, but if you're German, you don't get to talk about anything global.
Hang on. I want to read this comment from Barry. He says, Michelle, Charles can't become a dictator. The Magna Carta and Bill of Rights of 1689 prevent that. It would cause a civil war if he tries to seize power.
He already is.
I would agree with you, but my question is, you're talking about him coming out and saying, no more Parliament, I am in charge, we're going back to before William and Mary.
He's already gone. Here's the thing. When you put a barrier, water will find a way around.
Right.
So what Prince Charles has done is he's already become a dictator because he's just finding a way around. He's using, you all voted for Tories to get you out of Brexit. Not happening. Okay? To get you your Brexit deal. You see Boris Johnson is already in on it with Charles doing his Green New Deal. No gas cars in 10 years. Really? No gas cars to be allowed to be built in the UK in less than 10 years. This is not feasible even. Okay? So, yeah, he's already become a dictator.
Lockdowns and forced business.
But I like your attitude.
He
can't.
But you're right. He can't. It's wrong.
And illegal.
And property rights to tackle the imaginary climate crisis.
Now is a historical moment, a time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system.
We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again. So we must use all the levers we have at our disposal, knowing that each and every one of us has a vital role to play.
The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call. It is imperative that we reimagine, rebuild, redesign, reinvigorate, and rebalance our world. Rebalancing investment, harnessing science and technology, and advancing the transition to net zero emissions, all elements of the Great Reset are fundamental to building the future we need.
They want a better future that they need. But did they ask me what future I needed?
You won't own anything and you'll be happy is one of their utopian communist slogans. Seriously. Not sure your subjects would agree with that one, Prince Charles. Prince Charles's decision to throw his lot in with these crazies and now sell this eco-corporate fascism in the German tongue is unfortunate timing, to say the least. Because here's what the levers used to control the coronavirus are currently being pulled in Germany itself.
People fighting back. This is what I'm talking about, baby. People. You can't stop the people. There's more of us. There's more of us. Let's unite.
Yes, that's water cannons the other day being used this weekend, in fact, against anti-lockdown demonstrations in Berlin, against protesters who were simply demonstrating against attempts by the Reichstag, sorry, Freudian slip, I mean, of course, the Bundestag, to enshrine new and even more stringent and draconian lockdown legislation, such as enforcing mask wearing, banning the sale of alcohol, shutting down shops, and so on. And after having hosed down the protesters, the German police, Freudian slip, then went door knocking, hunting down a man who dared to live stream the freedom protest.
Da. Die Polizei ist gerade da. Ja. Polizei! Ich will die Hände sehen! Auf den Boden, runter, beide! Runter auf den Boden! Geh runter!
This is the scariest thing ever!
Yesterday in Germany, that Prince Charles is what using all the levers available to us to enforce a political doctrine looks like. Totalitarianism. You, of all people, with your family history, Charles, shouldn't really be wandering around spruiking corporate quasi-fascism in the name of saving the planet. What a joke. But first...
I didn't watch that to the end, and now I'm a little bit creeped out.
That was really intense. Like, okay.
We're trying not to scare you. Sorry.
I don't know what he said, but I like if I was speaking in tongues, it'd be like,
that sounds like every German Nazi movie I've ever seen.
Oh, and that's current.
Hammering on the doors of trying to get the Jews hiding in your basement.
Oh my
and he was live streaming the protest.
So,
we need a break.
Friends of ours and us, we do this thing called Thankful Lists every November. And every day we text our little group of one thing that we're thankful for, and then on day 2 there's 2 things and 3 things and 4 things. All right, so so for one of my 22 for today is going to be that I don't live in Germany, and the current Nazi Germany that's taking place right now. That's definitely going to be my number 1 thankful for today, and you should be too. That was intense.
Well, here's their Great Reset. I just want to remind you.
We have an
you have to watch it again.
opportunity
this is from Prince Charles.
to create entirely new sustainable industries, investing in nature as the true engine of our economy.
The current global crisis has disrupted every aspect of our lives, but it has also presented us with an extraordinary opportunity, a chance to reset and accelerate efforts to improve the state of our world.
Changing our current trajectory will require bold and imaginative action, together with determination and decisive leadership. In order to secure our future and to prosper, we need to evolve our economic model, putting people and planet at the heart of global value creation. If there is one critical lesson we have to learn from this crisis, we need to put nature at the heart of how we operate. We are on the verge of catalytic breakthroughs
That doesn't look like
that
nature
will
to me.
alter our view of what is possible. and profitable within the framework of a sustainable future. We need nothing short of a paradigm shift, one that inspires action at revolutionary levels and pace. We simply cannot waste any more time. The only limit is our willingness to act.
You're creeping me out. No, that's where we're going to be, the empty streets.
And the time to act is
forever.
now.
No, you creepy man.
So funny is that if you Google reset, that comes up with the word conspiracy theory. But this is their own deal, man. This is their own great reset. Like it's not a theory. This is what they're doing. This is what they're saying. I don't know what kind of backwards world. This is not a theory. It is a theory. It's their own theory. But
here's the deal. It can't be a conversation.
I am
one
so
thing
confused
that should stand out to you.
I am confused.
Is he said that we should put nature at the center,
not
of
human beings or people.
Exactly, and it's a religion that puts nature as God.
But here's the thing. Prince Charles will always have his land. Prince Charles will always have his organic food. Prince Charles will always have his travel. His son will always have a giant house. They will always have giant houses and giant mansions and royal diadems and diamonds. And they believe because they deserve it, because they were born. They are, and I have to tell you this, I believe the Queen is a good person. But the Prince Charleses of this world, the global elites, they believe that they have a right to have the fancy suits and the fancy dinners and the big giant castles and mansions like Leonardo DiCaprio. And for Harry to go on the stage with all of his rich friends barefoot and say, we want to change the world. What he's saying is, we want to get rid of you people. That's what they're saying. You are a plague on the planet. We hate you and we want you gone.
Right.
And we want the world left to the Georgia Guidestones with only a handful of a million, two people who are our closest friends. And the rest of you need to lock down. The rest of you, as Gavin Newsom showed, no, you people are using too many resources. You're using too much gasoline. You're polluting the air. You're using too much stuff. You stay home.
Right.
They're not going to stay home.
Exactly.
They're going to keep getting together with their friends. They're going to keep traveling. In fact, recently, California lawmakers all took a big trip to Hawaii. They're going to keep doing this.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to give you a commercial break. I don't know if you can see this. Not all heroes wear capes.
I think he has a cigar in his mouth.
And wrested from the jaws of the alligator. It takes several seconds until he's able
it's
to
a puppy
put the gator down, shape the puppy
and an alligator.
The puppy did suffer a puncture to its belly, but is doing just fine after a trip to the vet. Man leaps into the water to grab a hold of his King Charles Spaniel and wrest it from the jaws of the alligator. It takes
humanity
until he's able to put
will
the
survive.
Down, shake the puppy from its
so I think that this guy is a hero. Okay.
After a trip to the vet.
Is it a crocodile or an alligator?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Whatever this reptile is, it's kind of a small one, and it had something in its mouth. I think that a lot of people would go in after that their dog. If it wasn't a, this is me not trying to poop. I'm just literally trying to. He's a hero, amazing man, amazing man. I just am putting myself like I would probably do that.
Yeah,
like I would do that. I'm not. I wouldn't do it. I'd probably go and get something like a gun if it was a bigger crocodile.
So on the other side, when I talk about the American spirit, in America we have some lockdowns. This is 10 o'clock after curfew in California.
Come on now. Yes. Why didn't you show this to me last night?
You saw this morning.
Thank you, Jesus. See. Ain't nobody gonna get me down.
We got one just hanging out of their car.
It's like, if you guys, I mean, if they want to achieve something, all you have to do is put out recommendations. Honestly, people will follow recommendations. When you start making it a rule, and then you start trying to enforce that rule like it's law when you haven't made it into a law, and it's draconian, everybody's gonna buck it. Like, no, we ain't doing that, Jack.
So this is dear farmers and fishermen, thank you for your support for democracy in this time. It was you who helped us throw off the dictatorship at the gate, and now you are here again. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. The people are on your side here. I'm trying to decide if this is where Finland or if it's Sweden. I don't know, but they're farmers. Oh wait, that's a Finnish flag. Is that or is that Norway or is Finnish flag, guys?
I don't.
Swiss flag. Is that the Swiss flag?
It's Norway.
Is that the Swiss flag, guys? With the sorry, my flags are. I think it's Switzerland.
We'll wait for somebody in the chat to tell us what you don't know. Thanks. And I don't know either, but I didn't bring it up. Like, here's this awesome thing I don't know anything about, but it's farmers and it's cool.
And they're fighting back.
And they're fighting back. Yeah.
Yeah. Swedish politicians. Denmark. Okay.
Thank you, Robin.
Swedish politicians speak of Poland and Hungary leaving the EU after budget veto. 2 Swedish members of the European Parliament have slammed Hungary and Poland, speaking openly about conservative countries leaving the European Union after vetoing the budget's block. So we'll see where that goes. They're pretty mad. We talked about that. The UK has a deal there. Swedish Islamic political party to challenge Social Democrats in a no-go zone.
Wow.
So you've got the Islamic Nines Party are looking to cause an upset in upcoming municipal elections in the notorious Stockholm suburb of Rinkeby. After we used to do the Swedish, the Swedish and the Rinkebys. So the Nines Party leader Mikael Yüksel announced that Mohammed Hag Farah, a popular member of the no-go zone's Somali community, would be running as a local candidate in the area for the party in the upcoming local elections in 2022. Described by the local press as Rinkeby's mayor and the father of the town by local media, Mohammed Hagi Farah has been involved in the Somali community in Rinkeby for years and was praised last December when he went into retirement. Johan Westerholm, the author of the book on Islamism in Sweden, told the news website,
wouldn't that just be Johan?
Johan, did I say Johan?
You said Johan.
No, Johan.
Are you Swedish or not?
I don't know,
Johan.
That the candidacy could pay off for the Islamic Party and could threaten the Social Democrats. Mikael Yüksel has been smart. He has sat down and calculated on which cities you have a chance to get in, and so he has invested there. Westerholm noted the influence of local mosques and clans on voting in areas like Rinkeby that have high migration background populations, and stated that the Social Democrats would not be able to respond to such a party. They call themselves a suburban party. It's the classic Islamist rubber language. The Nines Party emerged in January this year, saying that they wanted Muslims in Sweden to be recognized as a special minority in the same way the country recognizes Sami people and Jewish people. The party chairman, Mikael Yüksel, was formerly a member of the Center Party, but was kicked out after it emerged he had links to the Turkish ultranationalist Grey Wolves, a group that was recently banned in France after clashing with police and vandalizing an Armenian genocide memorial. The Grey Wolves participated in a protest in the southern Swedish city of Malmö earlier this month following the French ban. So that looks like great news there for Sweden.
Not really.
Scotland shuts its borders with the rest of the UK in the latest COVID lockdown push. Can't go anywhere, can't come in. This is their bid for freedom. The Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon shut down travel from other countries in the United Kingdom on Friday, as much of the country is placed under draconian lockdown measures to supposedly stem the spread of the Chinese virus. They're trying to just go look to see if they got any descendants of Robert the Bruce. We watched the new movie Robert the Bruce. It was slow going. I was kind of hoping he freed Scotland, and it just had those words at the end. It was kind of slow going, but still beautiful, I guess, filmography.
Robert the Bruce.
From 6 p.m. on Friday, the Scottish government, roughly equivalent to the US state government, banned Scots from travelling to England, Wales and Northern Ireland. People from the rest of the UK are also banned from entering Scotland, with the government imposing £60 fines for those found to have crossed the border illegally. On Thursday, the Scottish Parliament voted by a margin of 99 to 23 to back the restrictions under the lockdown. All non-essential businesses, pubs, restaurants, shops, cafes, swimming pools, gyms, and tourist locations will be shuttered until December 11th. Aside from border crossing restrictions, people in the 11 areas where the government has imposed Tier 4 restrictions will also be banned from traveling to other parts of the country. Those who need to travel for work as well as for other exemptions are permitted to travel inside the country. These travel restrictions, nobody likes them. I don't like them, right? But they are vital to help us minimize these risks. They are vital to helping us avoid having the whole community at the same level of restrictions. Oh, Scotland be free!
Stuart.
I was cold all alone. No place for